Hello once again. I'm Richard Halls, and I'm conducting this program on YouTube, Walking with God in the Garden. I like the theme, not because it's mine, but it's a biblical theme. And it's based upon that passage in the book of Genesis where it says, "And Adam walked with God in the cool of the day." It's kind of an ideal environment in reality. And I hope that you are spending time in your garden, which is where you live. Maybe it's your apartment, your house, your job. Maybe it, in fact, is a real garden where I spend not the majority of my time, but certainly a lot of it. Because I enjoy seeing things grow. I enjoy planting seed. I enjoy pruning and watching the development of plants. It's a part of my nature. I was born on a farm in Michigan, and as the old saying goes, you can take the boy off the farm, but you can never take the farm out of the boy. Friends, I'm still a boy in so many ways, so I'm so grateful. From time to time, though, I think about my office where I am broadcasting this. And I was thinking the other day, maybe I ought to take some time and point out certain things in my office or what I have collected and just share them with you. I will do that, by the way, with some of my produce from the garden. I've done that already with onions, but right now it's harvest time for beets and lettuce and carrots and peas. I have a plethora or an abundance of snow peas. And you'd be surprised at how many friends you can make if you give away snow peas. I wish I could do that for many of you who are watching this program from some distance. I want to encourage you to subscribe to this program, and you do it by channeling it by doing this at Richard Halls 1449. Tell other people about it, if you will. I don't know how many subscribers I can get. I've been thinking about maybe changing the venue somehow. Maybe actually taking a tour of the garden. And then I'd have to have somebody control, of course, the screening. But it can be done. So thank you today for being a part of this YouTube program. Again, I'm Richard Halls. And it's a joy to be able to produce this week after week. I'm going to begin somewhat of a series today, which has to do with suffering. I have a dear friend who told me that he could not believe in God because there was so much suffering in the world. It wasn't that he didn't really accept God, but he could not believe that God was a loving, kind, compassionate person, because he looked around in this world and all he saw was suffering. I've seen a lot of suffering as well. Maybe you have. As a pastor, I spend a fair amount of time in the hospital. I call on people who have cancer. I deal with individuals who are basically emotionally distraught because of their involvement in Vietnam or in the Middle East, in the wars like in Afghanistan. Tremendously disturbed. So we try to comfort, try to bring them through it so that they do not suffer. In many cases, I commit or I have services for people who have committed suicide. I'll be having such a service this week, a young man who, because of his relationship with his other friends, who have all, by the way, committed suicide. Of the 4 who were very close, 3 committed suicide, and he himself has gone that way. So we suffer. Lots of people suffer. Is it justified? Is it possible to have a life without suffering? I oftentimes think of how it is we get through the day without some tragic thing happening to us. We don't get struck with lightning, or we don't get a little pain in our being, and we go to the doctor, and he says, I hate to tell you this, but you have cancer. So now a long process of recovery, if at all. Friends, what do we do with suffering? I think sometimes we ignore it. Sometimes we live with it. Sometimes we bemoan it. Sometimes we try to wish it away. But suffering is very real. I was reading an article the other day with regards to life on this earth. And the author concludes by saying, all of life is a struggle. I have bird baths that I look at through my breakfast window. And I watch the birds. I see them fighting for positions, for food. I see that there is suffering even amidst the natural world that we live in. Every plant suffers to emerge and to grow and to find fulfillment, as we human beings do, by the way. So what I want to do is I want to begin today with the story of Job. Job is a book in the Hebrew portion of the Bible. It's there for a reason. And I will be sharing with you what that reason is over a period of time. But in reality, the Jewish people, the Hebrew people, were suffering. And God had a message for them about their suffering. He wanted to help them through it. So the book of Job takes you through various stages of suffering that this man, Job, went through to bring him through some kind of victory. We're told that Jesus came to this world, by the way, to relieve suffering, to give sight to the blind, to give hearing to the deaf, to give life to the dead, to heal those who were sick. Jesus' primary objective was to alleviate suffering. But we live in a world today that professes that Jesus came and that he cares. But we look around and we find countless numbers of people who are going through the dreaded stages of suffering. Let me read about the perfect condition of life in Job before we get into the middle of Job, which is not today, but only to introduce you to the man. It says in the book of Job these words, "In the land of Uz there lived a man whose name was Job. This man was blameless and upright. He feared God and shunned evil." Oh, two very important things. To shun evil and to respect and reverence God. Job did both of these. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters, and he owned 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, and 500 donkeys, and had a large number of servants. And then this, he was the greatest man among all the people of the East. Was Job blessed? Oh, yes, he was blessed beyond measure. We'd like to be in that position, to have it all, and to have it attached to our religious devotion, to shun evil, and, as it says here, to respect God. But Job was covering his bases. He had, as we said, 7 sons and 3 daughters. The 7 sons and 3 daughters would party a lot. And as they partied, they drank. Had a good time. I don't know if Job was trying to take care of them or not, but he did one thing. And the Bible says he would send and have them purified after the party. Early in the morning, this is verse 4, he would sacrifice a burnt offering for each of them, thinking, perhaps my children have sinned, and curse God in their hearts. And then the Bible says, this was Job's regular custom. He was covering the bases for his children, not only himself, but also his children. Have you taken steps to protect yourself Let me ask you, do you reverence God in your life? Do you avoid evil at all costs? Do you do something to cover the mistakes and the sins of your family members? Or do you live in fear that they're doing the bad thing? I talk to many parents today who say that their children do not attend church. They're not living lives of devotion or commitment. They're not being spiritual in their pursuits of life. It bothers the parents. They pray for their kids. We just got a brand new great-grandchild. We're praying for our grandchild, Ben. We want Ben to grow up to be a God-fearing, God-loving person. But it's a long way from Ben's birth to the time that he reached adulthood and responsibility. So we want to try to cover him. We have 7 great-grandkids, 5 great-grandchildren, 5 children. We want them all protected from evil. I don't know what else we can do but pray. We're not the sacrificial type of people that kill animals and offer them to the Lord, but we give time. We try our best, and maybe you do too. Today, you might be a blessed person. No troubles, no pains, no aches, no difficulty. God bless you if you do. Next week, though, we're going to look at Job and see what happens to this perfect environment that he lives in. Friends, enjoy the day that God has given you. Be blessed in it. Thank him for it. And if you're free of all these ills, aches, and pains, just thank the Lord for this tremendous blessing. Something we oftentimes take for granted and don't do enough to cover all things. Have a great week, and God bless you.